1. I was on my way home after spending a few months living at a boarding school at the time, and was taking the commuter train from the capital to my parents' house. I'd already been traveling by long-distance train for close to 5 hours, and was understandably tired. The train arrives, packed up already, and the horde of people pour in. I would have waited 15 minutes for the next train, but it wouldn't have been much better. I get onto the train and spot Karen, 40-plus female, and her 2 kids, under 8 and male. We're taking up a total of 7 seats on a train that would have been crowded even with 4 more seats free. She made no effort to stop the kids from lying across 2 and 3 seats respectively, even as the train was bursting at the seams with more people standing than sitting. I declared an oath of vengeance. Thankfully, wearing a big coat and clunky backpack as I was traveling home from boarding school, and took up a spot right in front of her, holding on to one of the handles while shoving my backpack and butt in her face. I was probably blocking at least part of the view of her phone. Could I have taken my backpack off? Absolutely. It would have been crowded, but I didn't have to keep it on in a hot train. I then proceeded to make that 20-plus minute train ride as miserable as I could for that Karen. Any shaking or rumble of the train, I accidentally bumped my backpack into her face, stepped on her toes, or swung it in front of her face. About 5 minutes in, she tapped my back, and I heard her say, "Excuse me, your backpack is hitting me." As fake apologetic that I could, I turned around, sweeping the straps across her again, and said, "Yes, pretty crowded in here, not a single seat left." It felt amazing to turn back around, ignoring any response she might have given. I didn't care. I was trying to see if I had a fart in store, but sadly I'd eaten healthy that day. I made sure she did not enjoy the next 15 minutes of that ride. Even as seats opened up, I kept the spite up. Could I have tried diplomacy? Yeah. But I felt like she didn't deserve the chance to make things right at the time. She had been on the train longer than I, and it was already full before I got on at the capital. Once my stop came up, I remember considering following the train until she got off too. There were only 3 or so more stops, but it would be more time to try and super saiyan some gas through my rectum. But I decided to just get off and head home instead. I did notice her glaring at me through the window as I left, so I flashed her a smile and my middle finger. When I told the story at home, I got mixed responses. Dad was proud, younger siblings praised me as a hero, and Mom thought I was justified until I flipped her off, which, to be honest, I don't understand. I was stepping on her toes and shoving my public transport backpack in her face, but a finger was too far. So I'll accept any judgment here. I've heard from friends, "Oh, you don't have kids. She was probably tired too. You can't just assault someone for being rude." But they're the minority. 2. About 10 years ago, I have applied to work at a retail store selling different tech. It's a rather large chain in the UK and can get pretty busy, especially after 5 p.m. or during holiday sales. When I applied for a job, I wanted to go to the computing department as I was very passionate about different builds and had some experience in building my own PC. Instead, I was temporarily placed on white goods, fridges, washing machines, etc. For training, even after I've admitted I know absolutely nothing about them. But no, apparently this knowledge should have been inherited through my genes since I am a girl, so I must know about them and be very good. So I bit my tongue and waited as I needed money and was fresh out of uni. About a few months in, I realized I'm not going to be transferred to the computing department, no matter how much I wanted to. My sales were good, but the managers wouldn't budge as they were scared I might advise someone incorrectly. It was the start of the school term, and the store was getting pretty busy. A couple came in wanting to buy a PC for their teenage kid to game on. I wanted to help them as a fellow gamer myself, but got rudely pulled back by a manager and was told unless we are assigned to a specific department, we are not allowed to help customers or advise them. So he fetched another colleague who carried on assisting the parents. As it was quiet in my department, I was doing some tidying up around the store and heard the colleague trying to sell the parents one of the Apple PCs, saying they will be great for gaming and all professionals use them. At the time, we had a bigger commission from Apple brand. Let me tell you, they are not the best machines for gaming, and if you are into heavier games, they are likely not going to run that well or will be incompatible with the OS. I don't know what else the colleague said, but the parents believed him and got an iMac for the kid. The manager was very proud of the colleague and told me to use him as an example of a good sale for the store. I told him I could have topped it, and the customer would come back with a return, but was told again not to go to the computing department. Cue malicious compliance. A few days later, it was busy in the store, especially PCs, due to the back-to-school sale. A few people were off sick due to being overworked, so the computing department had like 2 people on the floor, including the work colleague who sold the iMac. The parents came through the door with the PC they got, which usually means something broke down or they want to return it. They saw the guy who sold them the PC and started heading his way. He saw them too and decided it's time to go on lunch, leaving one colleague on the floor in the department. The parents are getting visibly angry and try to go to the till, but after being in the queue and told to catch another colleague from the tech department as we can't process refunds at the till for large items. The parents approach me, as I don't have much to do, and ask for help. I would be happy to do so, but remembering what the manager said, I had to tell them I can't, as I'm not allowed to do anything with the PC department, as it is store policy. The parents approach more colleagues and keep hearing the same excuse. Obviously, they are getting more and more angry. So are other customers who want to buy something, but can't, since only people in the computing department are allowed to sell stuff for computers. They try to grab the only person on the floor, but he is already busy with other customers and can't assist them while the other colleague responsible for the sale signed out for the day, and the other is late. In about 20 minutes, there's a massive queue by the tills of angry customers demanding to speak to the manager. The poor person at the till has no choice but to fetch the store manager, and the floor manager is due to the amount of angry customers. They're trying to shift the blame on us, other store colleagues, but I mention about what the other manager said about not touching anything in the tech department or helping customers as we are not authorized, and since it is a company policy, and we haven't received the training, we have to comply. Of course, it makes customers even more angry and feel like their time is wasted, resulting in a commotion by the tills and further delays for other customers. I'm unsure how the entire situation ended, as I was grabbed by an older lady to help her, but that day we had a lot of complaints on different websites about policy and store staff refusing to help as it's not their department. And we had a few brainstorming sessions after how to reduce complaints, with none of the ideas taken on board. You would hope they would learn something and change the policy, but no. They gave extra training to the people already in the computing department and allowed other colleagues to sell smaller items like mice, keyboards, consoles, games, printers, but not the laptops or PC or VR, resulting in more complaints. The last time I had been in there to buy my mum a new laptop, had a voucher, the situation seemed to have stayed the same, as we ended up waiting around 45 minutes for someone to push the sale through. At least I got a chance to complain to the store manager, as well as telling him everything I think about that store policy. 3. Story takes place in the latter half of 2022 in the UK. Names and company changed and not mentioned due to NDA and overzealousness on behalf of the company. Part 1. The issue begins. I worked at a major tourist attraction during this time, and we got thousands of customers every day. Part of our attraction was outside, and we had expanded part of the outside to accommodate new parts for the attraction. In order to blend with the theme of the new section, a brand new brick pavement was installed in the area. Upper management had at the time a tendency to not think things 100% through, and this was no different. The big thing was that it was decided not to install an anti-slip surface on the brick pavement. Now, we were in the middle of summer and it was a particularly dry summer, but nonetheless, when it isn't dry, we got a lot of rain and a lot of snow and frost. We need that anti-slip surface. We told upper management this and, as per usual, fell on deaf ears. Winter comes far too soon, and with it all the rain that was meant for summer and to make up for a dry autumn. And the winter of 2022 was bad for the UK. Temperatures fell to single digits and then negative in the Celsius. With the cold came a permanent frost over the brick pavement, and the beginning of malicious compliance. Part 2. The Compliance. The first slips and falls heralded us to the idea. At the time, the company required us to write a paper accident and incident report about everything if something bad had happened. Now, everyone who's worked in tourist attractions, we've all seen kids fall from being too excited, and we often do a polite check to see if blood and gore and missing limbs are present. And if all is good, we just ignore it. No one likes paperwork. Not to mention, due to upper management's distaste for us, we had to take the long way to the offices, where the paper was to fill it in, and get someone to cover us while we filled it in. Upper management hated us being in their special offices and not out with the paying customers. It is worth mentioning, in their defense, our lower managers and middle managers were on our side, because even they knew what upper management was doing was utter nonsense. So they saw what we were doing and agreed with it. What happened was every single slip that occurred outside on the impromptu ice rink that was the brick pavement we would report. That's about 15 to 20 minutes of us in the warmth, not freezing our butts off, writing about how someone had slipped in the exact same manner as the last 10 people. All in plain view of upper management. I like to believe they began working from home more due to us being there in their office. I learned from one of our lower managers, that is a dear friend, that the stack of reports handed to upper management was measurable in inches. I do not regret saying I was one of the top 3 contributors to that pile. Part 3. The bare minimum response. Upper management finally began to make efforts to fix the situation. They decided to just cordon off the vast majority of the brick pavement with temporary ugly barriers, and put down anti-slip mats to make a path for the parts of the attraction that they wanted visitors to walk in. They thought they had won. We knew better. Anyone who has worked with tourists knows that tourists are a special breed of stupid. Told not to touch the very important items, they will touch. Told to keep their kids near and not let them wander off. I think the record of no lost kids was 4 hours. And so these barriers that everyone is required to respect, well, clearly it doesn't apply to me. Each time we told people not to go underneath these barriers, they looked like deer caught in the headlights. And the barriers were just low enough that kids would duck under and run straight onto the ice and onto their butts. Even more accident and incident reports rocked up as a result. And all upper management would do was tell us low, barely above minimum wage earners to do a better job policing this part of the attraction. Part 4. The Wake-Up Call. School kids. Oh, how we loathed schools, mostly teenager ones. Little kids no more than 5 to 10. Oh, they were delightful. We were happy with them. The main reason was because the teachers, who are still responsible for the kids no matter what, actually followed our guidelines. So, naturally, we liked the little ones, and were genuinely more concerned for them than normal. We all then had our moment of fear when it was reported that a 7-year-old boy had slipped and fallen on the ice, no doubt having been playing with classmates and unintentionally not seeing where he was going. That didn't save his 2 front teeth from chipping, and a call for our on-site first aid team to come and help with the blood. Luckily, he seemed all right beside the fact that the Tooth Fairy was going to be paying double that night. But for us, lower and middle management, it was the final straw. I wish I had taken a photo of that accident and incident report for posterity. The number of people co-signing it. Part 5. The Fallout. Nobody wants a lawsuit, and that kid's parents had grounds to do so like nobody's business. The fact that a child had been injured from negligence did not look good on upper management's part, and it wasn't as if they could pretend nothing had happened. Everyone had been telling them about the risk, and when it got to the bigwigs, I can only imagine what was said. Miraculously, within 2 days of the kid's teeth, they put an anti-slip surface on the brick pavement, at what was probably more of a cost than had they just done so in the summer. The barriers were removed, and the number of paper accident and incident reports dramatically decreased. They finally also got around to installing tablet devices, with which we could fill in reports without needing to drop position. Our lives were made easier. They got an earful. And that kid probably has a fun story for when he's older and has kids himself. I'd like to say upper management learned their lesson and took our words on board for future endeavors. But that is like expecting the dog not to poop on the carpet after the first time you shove their nose into it. I no longer work there for other reasons, and many of the people who joined in the act of malicious compliance have since gone elsewhere. But for nearly 3 glorious months, you had never seen a department work together like ours in that way before or since. 4. In high school, there was this girl named Martina Papp. Fake first name, actual last name. I never met her, never talked to her, but I discovered one day that she hated me. I had no idea why at first. After some investigation, it turned out that she hated me because I made my own fake edition of the school newspaper. I was a big fan of the National Lampoon, so of course I parodied my school newspaper. Martina was the editor of the school paper. She hated me because everyone read my parody paper and hardly anyone ever read the actual school newspaper. Mostly because the school paper was boring and heavily sanitized by the administration, so it was just dull and irrelevant to student life. My parody was funny. I made fun of the teachers no one liked, and went through the school like wildfire. Apparently, people would keep coming up to her and asking why the real paper can't be as fun as my parody, and suggesting that she get me on as a writer on her paper. Naturally, being high school, the paper was highly cliquey, and only friends of those in charge got on. To be fair, I didn't intend it to be read by the entire school. I had only made 3 copies to hand out to my closest friends, but they made copies and gave them out, and those people made copies, etc. I handed out 3 copies before first class, and after that class was over, I was walking down the hall and noticing that a lot of people were standing around reading something and laughing. To my surprise, horror, and delight, it turned out they were reading my paper. I ended up getting suspended for 3 days for writing my parody because I made fun of teachers and was stupid enough to have my name on it as the editor. But even after my suspension, Martina kept bad-mouthing me around the school. I kept hearing people spreading false rumors about me started by Martina. She even started insulting me when we'd pass at random in the halls. The thing that Martina Papp didn't know was that I had been sitting on a particularly nasty nickname for her. I'm pretty good at coming up with nicknames, but I had never shared the one I had for her with anyone because I was pretty sure it would stick, and it wasn't a nice nickname. Prior to her anger issues, I had no reason to use it. That nickname was Martina Papp Smear. Not very clever, but exactly the kind of thing that would click in the minds of us juvenile teenagers. But seeing since Martina liked yelling insults, I thought, what the hell. The next time she randomly insulted me in the halls, I just said, "Thanks, Martina Papp Smear." Just as I had thought, the nickname stuck, and she had to carry it for the rest of her high school career. As a bit of a bonus petty revenge for my suspension, several weeks later I made another parody paper, this time without my name on it. I printed up 100 copies and went to school early in the morning, hours before first class started, and spread them all around. Again, this paper went viral. But this time, when the vice principal called me to his office, I claimed it was a copycat paper and nothing to do with me, so no suspension the second time around. 5. I, 18 and female, graduated high school this year. I went to an all-girls Catholic school where most of my classmates were shallow and cliquey. Being an introvert, I would have kept to myself with just 1 or 2 close friends. But I have decent social skills and made a few more friends in 11th grade due to some health issues. I figured it wouldn't hurt to be on good terms with my classmates, especially in case I needed help. Among my classmates were 2 best friends, Serenity and Craphead. They were some of the smartest in class, so I decided to befriend them. Serenity was sweet, helpful, and mostly kept to herself. The other, however, turned out to be one of my biggest mistakes. At first, they seemed like the typical gossip, but my intuition told me she was a snake from the beginning. Still, I put up with her since I didn't want to be isolated. Everything changed when Serenity decided to get more involved in student politics and ran for head girl. Good for her. But Crabhead, she hated it. She started with comments like, "Serenity never spends time with us. She's always busy with her other friends." At first I thought she was just feeling lonely, missing her best friend. But she quickly escalated to outright insults. "Serenity's so full of herself. She's not even that great. I could get the head girl position in an instant if I wanted." I brushed it off as petty jealousy, nothing worth getting into. Little did I know, though, that after falling out with Serenity, she would make me her new target. She upgraded our friendship to best friend status, and I quickly learned that she had an issue with everyone. She would trash-talk classmates, teachers, even family members. For 2 years I tolerated her endless rants, in person and on calls, usually biting my tongue and ignoring most of it. By the beginning of 12th grade, things took a weird turn. We stayed back at school for a 2-night camp, and since she didn't bring her phone, she was entirely dependent on mine. One night my guy friend, who has had feelings for me for a while, though they weren't reciprocated, he was jealous of that too, asked if he could call. We were supposed to be having fun, but she insisted I pick up. For half an hour she hijacked my phone, talking to my friend while I held the phone, present but unable to interrupt. When my other friend wanted to show me a picture, I left them alone for a moment. When I returned, she said, "Two adults are talking here. Do not disturb." I decided to be a good sport, so I left them to it. She ended up monopolizing my phone and my friend for 2.5 hours, draining my battery. She refused to hand my phone back, even when I asked multiple times. A few months later, we were assigned various group projects. Naturally, I took on the leader's role because no one else would. During a call, we were discussing props, and I mentioned I'd ask some classmates if they had a doll we could use. She snapped, "Don't ask why. She probably won't have one." I replied, "It's a doll. Everyone had one as a kid." Then she said, "She might have one, but it won't be good quality-wise." "Why?" "Because she belongs to a lower class, no offense." I was furious. I barely managed to end the call without going off on her. Later, we were discussing transportation to a friend's place of work on a project model. I mentioned that Z was having issues with her ride and asked if Crabhead could drop her off if needed. Z is a dear friend of mine, so when Crabhead replied, "I'm sorry, but Z's mom isn't that busy. She's not a lawyer who gets many cases," it was my final straw. I stopped speaking to her outside of project work. Because of the project, I had to interact with X, another friend of Crabhead, not Serenity. During our conversation, we found out we both couldn't stand her. We'd both been faking our friendship with her, biding our time until graduation to cut her off. X then revealed all the vile things she had said about me, body-shaming, bragging about being prettier and worse. One day, while I was at X's house, we called Crabhead without telling her I was there. That's when she hit a new low. She commented on my looks, said I was draining, claimed she could easily beat me in a fight, and then said, "Don't tell anyone, but I think Opie's parents are getting divorced." I was livid. That was something I'd shared in a vulnerable moment, and she had no right. At that point, I decided it was time for revenge. I had always had a good reputation, and was known for being friendly and reliable. So when I finally gathered all my classmates, told them what Crabhead had been saying about them, they had no reason to doubt me. And, in case anyone had doubts, we made a group chat where I sent them proof. Because I might have ignored her nonsense, but my phone didn't because it's on auto-call record. Call recordings and screenshots of her talking about almost everyone out in the open. "Hannah, she said you go to a cheap hotel with your boyfriend and got pregnant. She even claimed you had an abortion." "Anna? She said your house is barely furnished and looks awful, and your home-cooked meals your mom makes taste like crap." And Karen, poor Karen, she called you lower class and said you were beneath her. This made that poor girl cry because she has been going through some financial struggles and thought Crabhead was a good person. X and I aired every bit of her dirty laundry, and soon everyone was in on it. The drama escalated quickly, reaching the teachers and eventually the principal. When they received the evidence, recordings, screenshots, everything, they were stunned. The principal called her and her parents in. My classmates and I even submitted a signed petition listing her offenses: sexism, racism, classism, and more. Her dad was in tears. I did feel a bit bad for him. But she sat there in denial, saying,
I didn't mean it that way."
She got her butt handed to her by the principal. After that, everyone avoided her like the plague. She even hijacked the Quiet Kids group, complaining about the whole situation until one of them ran to my group begging,
"Please save us. She's talking our ears off."
She ended up sitting alone at our farewell, clicking selfies by herself. I don't usually take revenge. But she crossed the line when she went after my parents. Update. A few things I forgot to mention since all this drama took place over a long period of time, and it's hard to summarize it all. She cursed her own parents and brother on multiple occasions. She also has this frenemy, Sally. Sally had an on-and-off relationship with her boyfriend, David. Crabhead at the time was dating David's best friend, Derek. Sally introduced them, so she started talking to David and became his friend. While she was still with Derek, she admitted to me and X that she feels some spark towards David. A short time after Derek abruptly ended things with her, she, who claimed it was just a spark, nothing more, went and confessed her feelings to David. Therefore, coming in between David and Sally, she got rejected, but still, that was a huge breach of girl code. Apart from this, she also said things about X's boyfriend like, "X isn't that great academically, but her boyfriend, on the other hand, is the top 10 of his class. He's preparing for so-and-so exam and is so smart. I have no idea why he's dating her. He is way out of her league. She doesn't deserve him." She then sent a follow request to her boyfriend. He's loyal, so he didn't accept it and told her about this. Crabhead then changed her PFP to a picture of her face previously, it was a blurry candid, and sent a request again, thinking her beauty will sway him or something. When he still didn't accept her request, she said stuff like, "He's such a lapdog." Now that you have a better idea of who she is as a person, let's move on. I graduated and moved to another city with my fam right after, glad that I had finally gotten rid of her. I was wrong, of course. I was settling in my new place when one day I wake up to a missed call from her at 3 or 4 a.m. I decided to call her back. She told me that her mom had passed away. I won't go into details, out of respect. I couldn't believe it, and I wanted to be there for her in this difficult time, no matter what happened between us. She was crying and talking about her mom, and I was trying my best to comfort her. It had only been a few hours. She then continued to bring up the crap that went down in high school, and how she was wronged and I have no idea what she went through. She went on and on and on about that instead of her mom. I couldn't believe she was bringing that up when her mom had literally passed away. I thought maybe she processes grief differently, so I chose not to make any comments about the school drama and I just listened to her. I was there for her and let her know she can call me any time. It had only been a few days, 5-something days, and she said that she has moved on mostly apart from the occasional reminders and memories. I was shocked because I could never. But again, everyone processes grief differently, so I just told her that she's so strong. She subtly attacked me by saying that one can't survive by being so sensitive and that we have to be strong, etc., etc. I ignored it. She then continued to rant to me about how she has so many guy friends and so many romantic prospects, and how she never really got along with girls. After this, she kept calling me a few times a week, and I picked up thinking she might need someone to vent or talk to. But she only talked about boy drama, and at all times still bitched about X and other classmates. Across all these phone calls, she started to weave a tale of how she met this guy who is filthy rich. He has his own multiple startups, and his dad owns various companies in our country and abroad. How he offered to gift her a diamond necklace and earrings casually, and she refused such an expensive gift. She then told me that soon after they started dating, his mom passed away too, and about 1 month after that, his dad remarried. She first said that she was jealous of the stepmom because the stepmom and her boyfriend had been getting too close for her liking. By this point, I knew she doesn't need me for emotional support, so I started dodging her calls, picking up once in a blue moon. The next time we talked, I was hospitalized, and I told her about that. Yet, after showing a few minutes of fake concern, she started to tell me she was now okay with the stepmom and liked her. I was lying in my hospital bed in severe pain, listening to how boyfriend's dad had started acting weird and sent him to handle a sketchy deal, despite knowing it's dangerous just because he has now inherited the company and should be more responsible. He then got stabbed by middlemen, Went back a few days later, got shot, and was now in a coma. Oh no. She continued to say how she was more worried than his family. She also fed him the same "you shouldn't be so sensitive, you should be strong" nonsense when his mom passed. Anyways, a few months later, I picked up her call, and she's now telling me that his aunt has been doing black magic on him because she wants Crabhead's boyfriend to marry her daughter, his cousin, so that she can inherit the wealth. She continues to tell me that his health being bad and him getting stabbed and shot were all because of black magic. This was the end of my patience. I haven't picked up her calls since because I'm seriously done. I've got to set up boundaries because she is just using me to cure her boredom at this point. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge's Ice Cream, episode 388. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And do support me on my Patreon page, which is linked at the top of the description. Okay, I don't think we have any other business today, so let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: are you prepared for snowy weather? It just occurred to me as I saw the temperature falling quite dramatically last night. It got to 2 Celsius. And I thought, oh dear, okay, I'm going to have to see about getting a heater for the office now because I don't like to move things out about the house too much. So I'm going to be doing that. And I realized, okay, I better look out the snow shovel because I think it's buried at the back of the cupboard. So how many of you are ready to deal with the impending snow when it comes? Because it could sneak up on us at any moment. Let me know what you think, or how you indeed deal with it. Do you have someone that takes care of your driveway and whatnot for you? Do you like to shovel it yourself, that sort of thing? Do you have, or will you be getting salt to salt your pathways? Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, we'll take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this comes from Revenge's Ice Cream 386. And it was, what book are you currently reading, or did you last read? Today's answer comes from Toria Mansfield. On Writing by Stephen King. Just a great non-fiction book by one of my favorite authors. Thank you very much for your answer, Toria. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.